blessing it is to be here today. Thank you. And you know what I love about the pearls of wisdom is that they're all strung together by God's truth, and yet each one is individual and so different. And our messages are different, who we are in our life is different, and yet we come together and bring you these beautiful messages. I'm going to talk about the law of love. And natural law, like the law of gravitation, you know, we can't just, you know, if I grab something, it's going to hit the ground. Because the law of gravitation says so. And it doesn't change. It's immutable. A law of vibration means that how I vibrate, if I vibrate with love, I bring people around me that vibrate with the same vibration. Law of attraction is the same thing. It's like when I step out in faith, I bring to me what I need. And all these laws, these natural laws, do not change. They're God's laws. Not the same as the law on the street or the law of man. I mean, and our best, you know, when our founding fathers just, you know, put this country together and started the Constitution, the idea was to get closer to God's law. So the law of love of all the natural laws is my favorite. And one of the favorite things, I teach in a Catholic school. I don't necessarily advertise I'm a spiritualist, but anyway, I teach in a Catholic school. And what I love it when the bishop comes and does Mass, he always talks about how God loved us into existence. And how powerful that is. How precious we all are. God loves us so much that we are here. And the dignity that we must accord ourselves and to others. Now notice I'm saying to ourselves and to others. And I know in the Christian tradition it's all about taking care of our brother and taking care of others. And yet what I learned when I studied the Blackfoot is that you always pray for yourself first. Because you gotta take care of yourself, right? Because you can't take care of anybody else unless you do that. So I want to say, when we remember that dignity and that God loves us, we've got to remember He loves ourselves so that we can be loving and embracing of others. So in Matthew, Jesus was asked, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" And Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like unto it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." And you know, this was really a revolution, because when you read the Old Testament, it's bloody, it's judgmental, there's a lot of tough stuff in there. It's a hard book to read. And you know, the story of God loving, you know, is the people of Israel despite themselves is very powerful, and there's much to learn from that. But what Christ came to teach us was that the biggest commandment, the biggest thing we need to follow is to love each other, to love God, and how that can carry us through everything. And you know, all the great religions understand that love is the cement of this existence. The Buddha described love as one of the four immeasurables. And immeasurable, it's infinite. You cannot count it. You can't, as long as you're in your earth body, for sure, it's beyond our scope. Love is infinite. And we say that word infinite, but when you try to think of what infinite means, it can keep you occupied for quite a while. Anyway, he encouraged people to develop 4 different kinds of love. Loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and looking at all things openly and equally. And I'll have to say, if you've ever looked into Buddhism, that there's a lot of great things in it, and it's not always so easy to do. It's easier to say than it is to do, because what the kind of love he's talking about is to give love without expecting anything in return. Now, we know in our hearts that God will always love us, but when we deal here on earth plane, a lot of times we have to give it away and maybe not get it back. And so we give our love without strings. You know, it's that love vibration, because when you're vibrating at that place, it comes back to anything. But you don't expect it. Anyway, so that's another one of those things that you can spend hours contemplating and thinking about. But all these kinds of love, you know, they're the pathway towards having that warmth and that sympathetic heart that you can open up to all other beings. And that love is that instrument that allows us to see that we are all one in spirit. In Islamic love, I think for me the Sufi, which is sort of the mystical branch, is a little easier for me to grasp. But in Islam, that love is also an essential tenet. And the Sufi teachers stress this power of love as a part of our spiritual evolution. And I think the poet Rumi is probably one of my favorite, well, he's one of my favorite poets, but he talks about love in lots of different ways as a way of understanding how we best reach God. And one of the things he talks about is how we are like these, or he described himself as this lover that just thirsts and misses his beloved, which is God. And so he used that sort of earthly idea of physical love to, you know, show the passion that he had for his love of God. Looking at my life, I see that only love has been my soul's companion. From deep inside, my soul cries out, "Do not wait, surrender for the sake of love." If you can't smell the fragrance, don't come into the garden of love. If you're unwilling to undress, don't enter the stream of truth. Stay where you are, don't come our way. Love is our mother and the way of our prophet. Yet it is our nature to fight with love. We can't see you, mother, hidden behind the dark veils woven by ourselves. Do you want to enter paradise? To walk the path of truth, you need the grace of God. We all face death in the end. But on the way, be careful, never to hurt a human heart. So, you know, one of the things he also talks about, though, is how love might be a little dysfunctional, and that maybe, you know, the earthly version of romantic love or lust can really get in the way of connecting to God. And maybe, I think what it really does is when we get into that sort of passion, we lose ourselves. And so it's so important when we are giving love that we stay connected to who we truly are and to that truth of God that exists within us. So in the Bible, there's 6 words for love. I think there's 6 Greek words for love. There's a number of them. And the one that I'm going to talk about right now is agape love. And it's the love of a teacher for a student. And it's not the kind of teacher that goes, "Oh, hi, Johnny. I don't care if you're telling me to go to heck. I'll just say hi, Johnny, anyway." No, it's the kind that says, "You know what? You are doing wrong, and I'm going to tell you the best path for you." And it's not controlling, but it is giving guidance. It's not, so, you know, that love is powerful. It's not wimpy or mushy. And yet, it can also be, I mean, I've also seen a dysfunctional side of love too. And what I'm going to talk about is, I thought about, which gave me the thought of doing this talk today, is we had a student at school named Nick, and the kid, well, is a mess. He's like, I mean, we've given him chance after chance, and he was flunking everything except my class, because I teach art, so, you know, it's pretty hard to flunk my class. And he was, you know, and he was doing drugs, and so he'd fall, so he slept through his classes. I mean, he's a really nice kid, but, you know, you can't have this kid selling drugs at school. So finally, the principal contacted the parents and gave them the chance to take him out of school or let him, you know, resign from school instead of, expelling him. And the parents were angry, and they're like, "Jesus would never do this to our son. How could you be so cruel?" And, you know, it really upset my principal a lot that they said that. They came back to him, and he said, "You know, I really had to pray on this, but I know this is the best thing for Nick and our school." And I think that's really a great point, as, you know, if you're saying Jesus was some wimp that's going to let